Hello everyone and welcome back to this project series. In this project we are building a Reddit thread analyzer using LangGraph, and this is in fact the third video in this series. So if you haven't watched the previous ones already, then I would encourage you to check them out first. With that, let's continue with the project. Just as a quick recap, in the previous video we built the first version of this app. So what we did was, from the user end we used the .json method to access the Reddit, to access a specific thread within Reddit. So using this we obtained the thread data, which included the title, description, comments and replies. So with these, the user passes all these details along with the query to the LLM, and LLM simply does a quick summary of it to give us the insights. Now if you remember, all of this was inside a notebook, right? And we just ran a random bunch of cells to just to replicate what was possible, and to sort of validate our core functionality. Now in this video we'll move to version v2, which is at the core the same as that of the v1, but just that we'll put it together in a neat fashion using LangGraph. Right, so this is going to be a really quick one. It's just to show how we can move from a random like a notebook file to a more of a .py file, so that way it becomes easy to run our apps. Right, so here what we are doing is, the user now, instead of going to Reddit separately and accessing the data, all he does is passes the URL with a /.json and the actual user query. Now this goes into the LLM. Now in our previous case this was an LLM, right? So all it did was an LLM, like a function call. But from moving on, this yellow box, right, is going to be a node. And a node in LangGraph is like the fundamental element, right? It's basically a bunch of functions. It may or may not be an LLM call, but the reason why we are using node or wrapping functions inside a node is that it becomes easy to trace whatever is happening inside later on, right? So in this case, this is involving this node is to analyze the thread. So what it does is, firstly it hits the Reddit to fetch the thread data, right? So that is title, description and comments. So all of this goes into the LLM, which then summarizes or analyzes to give the insights. So it does two things. One is going to the Reddit to get us the data, and second is to analyze the information that's fed into it, right? So in this case, it was an LLM call. In this case, it's a combination of two. The analyzing part is an LLM call, but this sort of fetching and retrieval of the data is not really an LLM call. It's just a bunch of Python functions that running behind it, right? The reason why we do this is again simply to trace the activities, or trace the different steps, inputs and outputs, so that it becomes easy for us to evaluate our functioning later on. So this is pretty much that, a quick one, same as that of version v1. But let's now move to VS Code and see how we have structured it. So you have imported all your libraries, right? All the libraries. You load the environment variables, you initialize the LLM, and then you define the state variables. So we have the user query and the URL, which are the two things that is passed on by the user, and then the required information, a title, description and all the comments. These comments are a list of strings, right? But then you have context, which is basically the comments that are joined to give the actual context that's passed into the LLM. And finally you have the insight or the output from the LLM. We have a helper function that we have defined here, which is to extract comments and replies. This is basically the same as that we built in the version v1, this entire block, right? This is basically the same. We have this helper function, and then you define the prompt template, again same as that we defined here, which is to simply analyze the thread given a bunch of information, right? Then we'll go into defining the nodes. In this case, we have just one node that does both extract and summarize, right? So it accesses the thread state, which is the state variable that we defined here, and within this thread state, it starts with taking in the URL. You have the header and the Reddit response. The title is retrieved from it, the description is retrieved, and then you have the comment block, and uh, uh, okay, one sec. Yeah, sorry. For a second, I thought it didn't retrieve the comments, but here what it is doing is we're calling the extract comment text, which is basically retrieving all the comments and the nested replies also. So basically, we have all the comments here, and comment context is again just combining these individual list of comments into like a one single context, right? So this is the retrieval aspect, and here is where you're doing the summarizing, so this part. So we make use of the prompt and feed in all the variables that's required, and finally you call the LLM, or you invoke the LLM to get the response. In return, we update these state variables, so these are now updated with the recent data. Then we'll move to building the graph. Right, you define the graph builder, you add a node which is just a single node here, and then you define the sort of edges or the flow. So it goes from start to analyze thread to end. So that's how it is, right? You start, analyze thread, and then insights, and then you just compile this graph. To test this workflow, what we can do is we can pass in the URL with a .json at the end, and we also pass in a user query. So in this case, the user query is what is the average salary range for pre-seed founders that just raised their round. And you have the initial state. So this takes in the user query and the URL, and all the other variables are simply blank. And then we run our workflow and print the insight that comes from this. So let's test this out. What is happening here? Okay. I don't know why is this, but basically we're running this version v2, right? So here in the notebook case, you had to run each of the cells. It just becomes easy moving on from scalability point to build these sort of Python files. So yeah, the salary range for pre-seed founders and so on. We have our output here. Now let's go back to Langsmith. I have also integrated this with Langsmith. I have a playlist on this if you're new to this. It is basically an observability tool from LangChain themselves that will help us see the flow of data and track them. So I have my project set up here, which is called ThreadSense, of course, and within this we can check our latest trace. This is it. Here, as you can see, we have just one LLM call, or a sort of one node, which is your analyzed thread, and within this we have just one LLM call. So for your analyzed thread, the inputs that we given are the URL and the user query. All the others are blank, right? From this, the output is your comment context, which is just a joint version of all the comments. And where was this? All comments is your all the individual comments. There are about what 103 comments. So all of these are joined, and that is where what we get in comment context. And then you have the description that's fetched. You have the title that's also fetched, and finally you have the insight. That we get here. So this way of Python or moving to a Python file just helps us track the inputs and outputs. Some more things that you can see here is, of course, the latency. It is about 4.67 seconds, and you can also see the token usage of about 6,000. The underlying cost, because we are using OpenAI's GPT models, so there's some cost associated with it, and this is how it has cost us. And yeah, that's pretty much for this run, and of course pretty much for this video, I guess. This was a quick one. basically moving from this notebook file to a Python file and just structuring it better, so that we are just used to the LangGraph way of putting things. In the next video, we'll discuss what the strengths are of this video of this app, this version in particular, and what its drawbacks are, and how we can build upon that, right? And that's what will be our aim for version v3, right? I hope this video is useful, and of course I am active on LinkedIn. Reach out to me if you have any questions, or please drop a comment below. These code and everything is available on GitHub. The link to it is in the description, so do check them out, try it on your own, and if you have any doubts, like I mentioned, reach out to me and I'm more than happy to help. Thank you, and let's catch up in the next video.